Good evening and welcome to Mystery. I'm Vincent Price. Tonight, another exciting adventure of the world's first consulting detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Holmes himself has told us, I am an omnivorous reader with a strangely retentive memory for trifles. Consequently, the range of his professional knowledge included complete understandings of the properties of tobacco ashes, the shape of ears, the city of London, newspaper types, perfumes, the dating of documents, the typewriter and its relation to crime, the influence of one's trade upon the form of the hand, footsteps, bicycle tires, and tattoos, among others. Tonight, Holmes gets the opportunity to put some of that exhaustive knowledge to work in one of his most popular adventures, the Red-Headed League.
Hello, and welcome to the LBC Irregulars, a story-by-story review of the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes series produced by Granada Television between 1984 and 1994. I'm your new host, Kathy, still working on that podcast nickname, Bright. Joining me on this adventure through Sherlock Holmes is Jarrod, the yard sale artist, Albrecht. What's up, Jarrod? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I thought we settled on the MVP for your nickname.
Oh, well, it feels weird calling myself the MVP, but we might go with it.
Just own it. Yeah, we've got a couple of fun ones tonight. We're rounding out season 2. If I'm not mistaken, this is the end of the Granada season 2. I swear they keep changing what is season what out there, and I have to redo it on my Plex. That's a whole other story. And as usual, we usually, bring each other gifts in reference to the episode. So which episode did you bring me a gift from, and what is it?
I brought you a lovely gift from The Final Problem. I thought it might be quite the adventure to get us some tickets to the Swiss Alps. We both love the cold weather.
True.
Why not go and look at some beautiful snow-capped mountains for a while?
Sounds good to me. And just to make you and everybody else jealous, I've spent a fair amount of time in the Swiss Alps myself. Fancy, fancy, fancy. Now, I know you're wondering, what did I bring you?
Absolutely.
Well, what I did was I put an ad in the paper for a guest, and the guest needs to have a really nice goatee. And the person who answered that is Pat Sampson, a.k.a. DJ Kristatos, the founder of the LONGBOX CRUSADE. So I want to welcome him. But before I let him talk, I got to make sure this goatee is real. So let me just tug on this real quick. Ow! Yeah, there we go. It's legit. So here I give to you, Pat Sampson.
Welcome to the show, Pat.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to talk some more Sherlock Holmes with you guys. I'm so excited. All these stuff going on around here. I got 3-pipe problem, but a cool 4 million isn't one of them.
How long have you been cooking that joke? Well, let's see. You watched both the episodes. You wrote it down. He's selling a card. We wrote it down.
You have to.
I know we just watched the episodes today, so he's like that. He was like, "Oh, I got it."
Yeah, I always do that.
Hey, that keeps them fresh in the mind. There's nothing wrong with that.
I like it. Well, this is Kathy's first time with a guest. Now, Pat, you've been on the show before, back in the Gene Hendricks era.
Mm-hmm,
Kathy needs to fix the script where she says new host. This is like her 3rd episode. She's not new anymore.
I can still use that as a crutch.
Okay, I don't think you need it, to be honest with you. But yeah, welcome back, Pat, to 221B.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. It's always great to be here to come back. I always leave stuff here and there. It's like you go someplace, you stay for a little bit, you leave a little something, so you make sure you can come back again.
There's a pull in the Costanza is what that is.
Yeah. With my pipes. Mustache and
Pat Sampson. For all you Seinfeld people, Kristatos. All right, enough shenanigans. It is now time for Kathy to give us the recap of the very first story. If you are not familiar with the Red-Headed League, you're probably going to get your ending spoiled. But with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy.
Jabez Wilson is a pawnbroker who has taken a rather odd additional job. Encouraged by his assistant at the pawn shop, Wilson answered an advertisement in the paper from the mysterious Red-Headed League and got the job, thanks in no small part to his fiery red hair. After a few weeks of bizarre work, copying the Encyclopedia Britannica by hand, Wilson discovers that the League has very abruptly vanished without a trace. He takes this quandary to the lads at 221B, and Holmes takes great interest in the case, sensing there is much more to the proceedings than just a highly unusual job that suddenly disappeared. A bit of street-level investigating with Watson leads Holmes to discover the actual motives of the Red-Headed League, and it all points to a rather audacious robbery attempt.
Okay, now it's time for some highs and lows where we each take a look at the good, the bad, the maybe the what-does of the episode. We start with our guest, DJ Kristatos. Kick us off with the Red-Headed League.
Well, this was an interesting one, seeing that I've watched a little bit of this before in the Sherlock Holmes series that we covered on Saturday Matinee Theater. It was a little different take on it because I don't think Moriarty showed up or they even discussed that in that episode at all. So that's what really intrigued me on this one, that Moriarty is kind of behind this and Sherlock figures that out towards the end of what's happening. But I want to go back to the beginning and how fun it was kind of throughout some of this one, just the fun they were having with this story, especially Holmes and Watson in the beginning when Mr. Wilson is giving his story about what they're doing, and just to see two serious guys kind of start to crack up and try to keep that emotion and humor inside themselves.
Well, I mean, it started with Sherlock jumping over the couch when Watson arrived.
Yeah,
you know?
Yep. He's like, "Oh, come in, you got to hear this."
So Mr. Wilson was like, "Y'all are laughing at me."
Yeah, he's like,
"Yeah, we kind of are."
Well, you're the one that fell for this kind of crazy thing. But anyway, it was fun to see them kind of joking around and having some fun with that. That I liked. The other Brett ones that I was on with Gene were more serious compared to this one.
I think Brett and Burke have really hit their chemistry stride here, which is a shame.
Yeah,
because, heads up after the end of season 2, Burke gets replaced with Edward Hardwick. But yeah, you're right, Pat. I think they did. And let me pass it over to Kathy for her round 1. High, low, what the?
Mine's going to be a high as well, but I do want to say, Pat, you are correct. As I've mentioned on the other episodes, I'm attempting to read the short stories as well. And the short story, Moriarty's not mentioned in this episode at all.
In the short story either?
Correct. His first appearance is in The Final Problem, which is the next episode we're going to talk about. So yeah,
I didn't know that.
Moriarty was not associated with this story at all.
I was going to ask how true to the novel, the short story, is this?
That's what I love about this series, is because some of the lines that Sherlock has are word for word from the short story, and which I kind of love. But what I was going to say is the moment I remember the most is the moment that, as Sherlock does, and which I love watching him do, explain how he knows all these details about certain individuals. Mm-hmm. And the guy looks at him once he explains it. He goes, "Oh, well, I thought it was something clever, but now I come to find out there's really nothing to it at all." And the look on Sherlock's face of disgust is like, "Wait, what do you mean?" I love that moment, just seeing him kind of brought down to earth a little bit. I liked it.
And then he gave like a little soliloquy there about basically the summary was, yeah, it all seems very simple once I've explained it to you.
True, correct. With a lot of bigger words that I was like, what did he just say?
It was like very poetic and it was really cool.
What I like about that too was, like you said, Kathy, that he's kind of looking at people and seeing when he meets Wilson, oh, you must have been in China or somewhere in Japan, something like that, and the tattoo and all that, and he explains it. And then that he's a writer and all that. And then you get Watson as well, just kind of, oh yeah, because of the elbow pads and all that. I'm like, this is a smarter Watson.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's like every episode it's kind of a matter of fact. Watson just throws it in like, oh yeah, I do this too. And
Yeah.
it's not as big of a deal as it was in the first few episodes.
Yeah, it's like Watson has definitely learned from Holmes. And he's like, I knew that already too. So that was cool.
And this, I believe, was the first time where Sherlock didn't correct Watson.
No, that's what I found fascinating as well too, is he didn't say anything. He was like, yeah, you're right.
Well, Jarrod, what about you? What are your highs, lows, what-thas on this episode?
All right, my high has got to be John Labanowski as police officer Jones in this episode, working with Holmes and Watson. I like him because, we're very used to Lestrade, and in a lot of versions it's sort of adversarial between Holmes and Lestrade to an extent. This guy was like, he liked Holmes, he respected Holmes, he thought he was like a little out there. He's like, his methods are a little out there, but, he usually gets results. And I like the guy. And just to me, the best moment of this episode, it was just a fraction of a second. He's talking to, I think, Merriweather about him. He's like, yeah, Holmes is a bit out there, but he gets results. He's like, with a little fine tuning, he'd make a pretty good detective. And just from the background, you hear Sherlock go, ha! Like just off screen. He's back in his room. And I just died. I thought it was so funny because, like, Officer Jones doesn't mean anything by it. Like, he sincerely believes what he's saying. He's not trying to be mean, but he's so behind the ball as opposed to Holmes, but he doesn't get, like, he's lovable 2 steps behind Sherlock Holmes, is basically what I'm trying to say. And I think he played it really well. It didn't feel adversarial. It feels like he liked Holmes, just thought he was a little bit weird. I just really like that character and that relationship. And nothing to do with my turn, though, but I really appreciate you doing those short story reviews, Kathy, because like I said, I've read all these. I've read every Conan Doyle Holmes, but it was like when I was in my teens, so I don't remember. And I think it's really neat that they kind of injected him here. And I get why, because as we'll talk about in the final problem, he's a much bigger part. Like, you kind of need the introduction to broaden him in the next episode. So that's fascinating.
And I will go ahead and disappoint. I didn't finish the short story to a final problem before we recorded, but
I can tell
they do. But they do. In that short story, the beginning, there is a big section where Sherlock talks about him and kind of does the introduction, but we just get it here in this episode instead of the next episode.
That makes more sense, because then you'd have this big exposition dump at the beginning. It'd be kind of dry and boring. So this makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, let's get back to Pat for round 2. What do you got, my friend?
With Moriarty, it was interesting that they did bring him in here earlier. Having him in this one really made sense. I mean, just the overall evilly kind of guy that you had to think through this whole process just to do what you needed to get done in order to, tunnel underneath this bank, get this guy out of there. And they had all these people show up just to kind of get the job. I started wondering too, like, did they find all these redheaded people, or did all these people just really show up from the ad thinking they might have a chance?
I think it were all people who showed up from the ad. And I love the way he just cut everybody in that long line.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, that would not happen today.
Yeah. You could tell that Clay was in on it with Duncan Ross, right? Yeah. He's like, we don't want to wait this long line. So he like escorts all the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Duncan Ross, a.k.a. Bill Nye.
He does look like, or Nike.
He does. Yeah.
The whole time I kept thinking, is that really him? Yeah.
So I really liked how they introduced him, Moriarty, as well, too. And with Kathy giving us a little more detail there, it makes sense, especially in the next episode that we'll be talking about. Thank you for bringing that information, because it was kind of one of my question. Is this the first time in the Granada series that he's introduced? Because I wasn't sure if he was introduced prior to this or not. So
no, this is it.
Yeah, and this kind of it helps show that he kind of has a hand-on oversight over a lot of different
things. Yeah. He's the kingpin before Kingpin.
There you go.
Around.
That's a good word.
Yeah, he's got his hands on everything and just manipulating everything from behind the scenes to get what he wants and to do what he needs. Besides just some of the fun that Watson was having, especially when Holmes got upset with Watson when he goes, weren't you just guessing that it was going to be on Saturday for the robbery? Holmes gets mad at, come on, it's me.
I don't guess.
Definitely a good, fun story.
All right, Kathy.
I think my absolute favorite moment was, I'm going to need you to sit here and not talk to me for 15 minutes. Watson was out.
He fell asleep.
Stone cold asleep.
It all clicks for Holmes. He hops up. He's like, "Let's go." Watson's like, "Huh? What?"
let me get my notebook.
Great.
I love their relationship so much. I'm going to be so nervous about the next season without David Burke. Well, I'll save that for my Pat round if we have an extra round of what this.
Pat points.
Yes.
Yeah, Pat points. I like that.
I knew you would. And I'll just round it out by saying Eric Porter was the actor that they got to play Moriarty. And man, he's got a great look. Like his face is it's perfect in that it's very calculating. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very intelligent, but kind of evil. Now, I really liked him in this. I do think it's a bit more of a problem in the final problem, but I'll bring it up when we get to that one. I'll talk to you about why I still like Eric Porter, but I have issues with him in the next one. But like this introduction, and I want to say it was this episode where when they closed the credits, it faded to like a sketch of his face. And I was just, they oftentimes, I don't know about oftentimes, but as I'm rewatching these, I don't remember, but I want to say more than one occasion will end with one of those sketches.
Mm-hmm.
And the artwork, whoever drew that, it was great. Like the sketch was just great. I just stood there staring at it as the credits rolled. Like, and maybe it's just the artist in me, but I was like, that is a really good capture of that face of that guy's very menacing, like I said, but intelligent, calculating, evil. It's all in that face. So it was pretty good cast. Okay, do we have any other bonus things, or as we call them on the show, Pat points, with Pat to be here? You got anything left on your note sheet you got to get rid of, Pat?
The only other thing I have is, I liked it when I'm watching these things, even though they're supposed to make you think through things. I like that they still have a little fun with what's kind of going on. And man, what a mess they made of Wilson's workshop when they're trying to catch the second guy, the other robber guy. They're just like jumping around. It's like, wow, this is a really good fist fight going on.
Yeah.
Just two guys. I would have thought there'd be extra constables or whoever else hanging outside, that he would open the door and be like a bunch of men just standing there with guns or something.
There's almost like in every episode, I feel like there's a moment where they realize they had to fill up 50-minute time limit. And that's what that part felt like to me. Like they were like, crap, we got to fill in like 3 more minutes. Hey, y'all want to smash up that set?
Yeah.
Because you didn't even really need to show it.
No, grabbing the shelf and starting to pull it down.
Yeah, man. Old Wilson must have lost hundreds of pounds.
Well, he got a good sack of money back.
He did get a sack of money.
But that brings up another thing on my notes. And I want to call it not so much a little bit of a low, but there were parts where they were stretching it a little bit.
Like I said, I feel like in almost every episode, because they are short stories, they're trying to fill, I think it's a 50-minute time slot.
Yeah.
I feel it too, Pat. Like there's always like one part in every episode where I'm like, we're filling up the time slot right now. But, it also lets the story breathe a bit, and it can be a little more relaxing. But it's like you said, we watched this episode on Saturday Matinee Theater for the 1954 series, and they told the whole thing in 26 minutes.
Yeah.
So can be done. All right, Kathy, you got any Pat points left on your notes?
Not really. I think just to kind of go along with what you were saying, I don't know that this is my favorite Moriarty, but I do like him a little bit better in this episode than I do the next. And I forgot to mention that as part of my second favorite moment with him in the 15 minutes, he actually says it's a 3-pipe problem. And it made me think of this show. I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's where they got that from.
Hence Pat's introduction joke.
Exactly.
Ooh, 3 pipes.
Awesome.
And then he just sits there.
I'd almost forgotten until Kathy mentioned that Watson fell asleep. But again, that's great storytelling, because it really shows it's not early in the relationship. Because if it was early and someone says, I need you to be quiet for 15 minutes, then you start to be like, what? But Watson's like, nope, I get it. I'm going to nod off. He's going to do his thing.
Got to get a nap in when you can.
But you know what? Speaking of pipes, ...
Let's get into some pipe ratings. So overall, what did we think of this episode? Let's discuss the rating system that we have to do just that. On a scale of 1 to 5 pipes, 5, you loved it. It solved your mystery.
Aha.
4, it was really good. 3, it was all right. 2, you did not like it. And 1, you hated it. It threw you off of Reichenbach Falls. So how would you rate this story, Pat?
Well, I do my ratings on a scale of humor, heart, spectacle. I'm going to give this a 4. It was very good. I had fun with it because it's really a fun story. And I think what makes it fun is the poor guy that got duped makes it a fun story. But it is also a good kind of mystery, figuring out how it all came together and just how elaborate they went to do this. What was it, like a couple weeks he was doing it?
I think so. That sounds about right.
And he got the invaluable knowledge of all things under the letter A.
Yep. Yeah. That's what he doing. The guy locking the doors. Good day.
I think Sherlock actually said that at one point. He's like, well, you got paid all that money and you have the invaluable knowledge of all things under the letter A. Or it might have been Watson saying.
Watson said it when he handed in the money. It was good. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Jarrod, what pipe rating are you going to give this episode?
4.5. No further questions.
Understandable. Yeah.
No, it's Longbox. We don't do halvesies. I'd give it a 4 or 5 if Joe November was on here. But I think I'll stick with Pat. I think it's a strong 4, a top drawer 4.
Yeah.
Like a really 4 with an emphasis on it.
4 pipe with I'm wanting to smoke another one.
yes, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But no, I really liked it. Probably the only reason it gets a 4 is because it's one of the stories that I'm very familiar with, having seen it in other versions and all that stuff. It probably worked against it a little bit because, like, oh yeah, I know this story. Just so I got to enjoy the execution of it, and I really like it. Though. It's very good. And Kathy, what do you got for us?
Well, I'm torn between a 3 and a 4. I feel like it might be a little too simple. I like when they show the process of Sherlock figuring it out. I feel like this, he was just, oh yeah, they're robbing the bank. And I'm like, what? How did he figure that out? But because I do love the relationship with Holmes and Watson, the funny moments we got, like Pat mentioned, this is a much lighter, lighthearted episode. And I really do like the actor that played Mr. Wilson. I think I'm going to go with you guys, and I'm going to join you in 4 World.
Ooh. Open the door, get on the floor. Boom, 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 laka, boom, boom. We all rated it a 4.
Woo-hoo.
Well, all right, there you have the scores, and they are all 4s, and maybe you want some mores, then we have some in stores. Anyway, here we go.
Just beyond the next doors.
There's definitely more.
Good evening and welcome to Mystery. For the last of our series of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I'm Vincent Price. Last week, we met Holmes's arch-rival, Professor Moriarty, whom Holmes called the Napoleon of crime. Moriarty had been a professor of mathematics at a small English university, but dark rumors began to circulate about him, which caused him to resign his position. He moved to London and very quickly became the leader of organized English crime and the most vicious and skillful of Holmes's opponents. Perhaps Conan Doyle introduced Moriarty as a way of satisfying his boredom with Holmes. For after 23 stories, the author had become very tired of his fictional hero. He said, I fear that Mr. Sherlock Holmes may become like one of those tenors who, having outlived their time, are still tempted to make repeated farewell bows to their indulgent audiences. This must cease. Professor Moriarty shared those views, as we'll see tonight in The Final Problem.
And here is Kathy to give us a recap of The Final Problem. Again, if you are not familiar with the story, you might get your ending spoiled.
Watson arrives to an empty 221B as a disheveled Sherlock is knocking at the second-story window, asking to be let in. It seems he is being hunted down by the agents of his nemesis, Moriarty. Several months prior, Sherlock was called away to France for an investigation surrounding the disappearance of the Mona Lisa. Fingerprints belonging to Mendoza, one of Moriarty's henchmen, were found on the protective glass of the painting. Holmes deduced that while the painting was missing, Moriarty could sell fake paintings to gullible art lovers who would mistake them for originals. Sherlock's plan to retrieve the painting works, and Mendoza is caught. Moriarty is furious, and his paintings are now worthless. He visits Sherlock and threatens to destroy him if he does not withdraw, but Sherlock remains steadfast. While waiting for Scotland Yard to arrest Moriarty and his gang, Holmes and Watson seek refuge away from London but are followed across the continent. As they make their way to Reichenbach Falls, Watson is summoned back to the hotel to help a dying guest. He learns that this was a fake message to separate him from Holmes. At this same time, Holmes and Moriarty meet face-to-face at the falls. We see Watson return, and there is no sign of either Holmes or Moriarty. In his investigation, Watson fears that the two rivals fought and both drowned in the falls. Watson is mourning the loss of his friend and writes the last adventure of Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, now it's time for the highs and lows rounds. Let's get into it, and let's start with Pat. Pat, you want to go backpacking with me in the Alps?
Are we wearing like short lederhosen?
Yeah, I'm wearing them now.
Yeah, okay. Shortless?
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's going to get colder.
I just wondered because I'm doing it too. Just wanted to make sure
we're good to go.
Good. Okay, cool. So I don't want to say this is a low, but more of a this went into really quick with Moriarty, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's here now, and this is going on. And I was like, what did we miss? When they start watching this, like, how long has this been? This rivalry is like right there now in this episode. And I was wondering to myself, did the episodes get mixed up? Am I missing some episodes? What's happening here? I was really confused on the beginning of it. I guess, is it that way with the novel as well, Kathy? In the beginning, does it go from the Red-Headed League right to this one?
They're not in order in the book that way. They're several chapters apart from each other, but the beginning is the same in this episode as it is the short story, but there is a section where it's, like Jarrod said earlier, it's exposition on Holmes telling Watson what has transpired over the past several months that he's been away.
I'm like, too. I was like, oh, I'm back. I'm like, well, where were you? So
Holmes pulled I bet you've been wondering where I've been.
Yeah. I was really confused in that beginning of it, but towards the end, as the story played out, I kind of got it. Kind of a just to be thrown in from learning of Moriarty the last episode to all of a sudden like, oh, this guy's been around for a little while, and the real tension is really ramped up to speed real quick.
I agree with you, Pat. The episode feels a little more disjointed because it's told in a non-linear way in some ways. It is much more of a chase episode than a mystery to be solved. So it is quite different, and it has a whole different tone. And this is where I'm not as big of a fan of Eric Porter as Moriarty, because while he has that look, in this one, he has to get physical with Holmes. And he looks like he's about 40 years older than Sherlock Holmes. Like, should not be a challenge for Sherlock Holmes.
It's like Holmes beating up on his dad or something.
I know, right? It's like just one swift punch to the hearing aid is all it would take.
What's kind of funny is in the beginning of this one, as he's getting chased by these agents, I'll switch back to another high that I had, is I like the fight scenes in this. It's showing Holmes's skills. It's like, this is kind of secret agent-y kind of going on. Holmes has got that sneaking around, and then he's pulls them all into an area where he really couldn't have got out of. So he goes and finds a place, climbs up, and then he just kicks the guy. And then after that, gives him the upper hand while the other ones come in, and he just kind of takes care of the other two guys real quick and then runs away out of the trap that he was kind of in already. So I like that. I was like, wow, this is really kind of Bondy
Action Holmes.
Yeah, Action Holmes. I like that. I call it Agent Holmes.
Yeah, I like that too. But we've been talking a while, and Kathy hadn't got to chime in round one yet. What you got, Kathy?
I kind of agree. I felt it very disjointed. I was quite confused when they're traveling. I'm like, is this the plan? Is he wanting Moriarty to follow him? Is this a trap? Are they in pursuit of Moriarty, or is Moriarty in pursuit of them? I was so completely confused. Oh, and you were talking about how Sherlock was much more physical in this episode. The first 5 minutes, he's hanging off of the second floor balcony that he's climbed up. So
Spider Holmes.
The moment where Watson is watching Holmes, and Watson sees true fear on Holmes's face. Like, I love that moment between them two, because he's concerned and scared for his friend, who he's never seen fearful like this before.
Yeah, Holmes has got scared. I call it the meeting of the minds. Moriarty just kind of showed up at his door, and then two smart guys, they already know how they were going to finish each other's sentences, or knew what each other was kind of up to. Yep.
That was another part that confused me. I didn't understand half the words they were saying to each other. I'm like, I don't know what just happened.
They're two cool guys, Kathy.
One of them was, what did he say about trodden underfoot? I'm like, let me go look that up and see what that means.
Crush him.
Destroy him is how I worded it in my synopsis.
Yeah. Because Moriarty, this is a smart guy, right? The professor, and he's Holmes' equal and all that. But Holmes got him so pissed off that he's like, I'm coming to your house, and I'm going to tell you, either you stop now or I'm going to take you out. And do you want that?
In the short story, Holmes calls him his intellectual equal.
But what I wanted to bring up, though, you talk about Holmes' scaredness. As Moriarty leaves and tells him, well, I guess you made your choice. You continue to do what you're going to do. I'm coming after you. Good day. And he starts to walk out, and then Holmes stops him. But before he stops him, you see him kind of tighten up his
robe.
Yeah. He tightens up that robe real quick, because you can kind of be in that fear and then wanted to say, I want to give you a thank you or something. And then I'm also going to tell you, screw you anyway. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You could tell he was scared in that action that he did.
Exactly.
Holmes missed a golden opportunity to take out that revolver and put that cat on the floor.
Well,
right there.
And I feel like that's all that could have put down was a cat. That thing was tiny.
But did Moriarty have something in his cane too? Because he kind of points it like it.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I heard something click, and then it's like,
I think there might have been. Like I said, it's been a few days since I watched it, but that sounds right.
Cane might have been a gun too, and just to let Holmes know, you got a gun. I got one too.
Well, Pat, you got anything else? It's your back top of the order.
Yeah, I seem like I've been talking too much about this one.
No, it's good that we're excited about it. We enjoy talking about it.
A fun part about this one that I liked is always when Holmes gets dressed up and tries to fake out people.
You love the dupage.
Did you get duped, Pat? Did you get duped?
I figured he was sitting when the guy said, oh, he's already in the train in the window. I'm like, Watson, just look behind you. He's probably sitting there disguised, but they don't show it, and they make you wait for it and wait for it. Then you finally see him, and then you see Holmes with the little nose and just kind of.
Yeah, that was awful.
Watson got duped, the good old fake out of Holmes. But, it's fun to see Holmes do that. I like that.
I liked it too, man. I like Moriarty chasing him in his own little train with that scowl on his head, like an angry little kid, like, It was almost laughable, I thought.
and then you got this old man walking in the hills and up these hills and all that. Watson sees him walking up. Am I crazy? Why is this old man just walking up these hills?
Yeah. Since this is the second and quasi-final round, there's a couple things I want to talk about, but I don't want to pull a Pat. So I'll say I like the emotion of this one. I thought it was really touching, especially when, I think we all knew, even as the audience knew, in a rare moment we're kind of caught with Holmes, I think we all knew he was lying to Watson about having to go back to the guest house. He'd set that up because it was basically like, I know something real bad is about to go down, and I don't want you to be a part of it. He truly loves his friend, and I thought that was really touching.
Until you just said that. I never considered that Holmes did that. I assumed it was Moriarty trying to get, because I actually have in my notes, that was my big disappointment in Watson. You see this guy in a cloak heading in the direction y'all have been. How is that not suspect? Why do you still go back to the hotel? How do you not know that you're leaving your friend?
I took that more as Holmes saw him. And because remember, he even lied because Watson was like, what do you see out there or something like that? And I was like, nothing.
No,
and we
but then
knew he was
later
lying.
on, as Watson was going back to the hotel, he runs into somebody halfway there.
Yep, you're right.
And it was and he kind of looked at the guy and he kind of was like, he kind of questioned it. But then he kept going back. Yep. And I'm like, this guy's going in the direction you just came from. So how?
It's the same guy that had his head out the little train. That you could see that because he's like, my head's out the window. How can you not?
I had forgotten that part, but yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was, Holmes doesn't show a lot of emotion. So this is a good storytelling method to show his emotion without him getting emotional. He just lied to Watson to make sure he was safe. I thought that was touching.
And Watson had his moment too to say, no, I'm sticking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was touching stuff. Kathy, what do you got?
That was one of my favorite moments. The only other thing I think I really wanted to mention was the scenery was gorgeous.
Oh,
I want to go so bad. I'm not crazy about the helicopter work. Maybe I assume it was a helicopter that was flying over, doing some of the flyovers. That was I
think they used a dragon.
It must have been something because it was very shaky.
They probably did rent a copter and only get quick shot at it. So yeah.
We're talking about early 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So,
TV
but I did.
Budget,
yeah. But I loved the scenery. The Alps were amazing.
Man.
So
the memories it brought back. Yeah. Having been there and then seeing on the screen again just tugged right at my heart. They really captured. Have I mentioned that I've been there?
Yeah, we heard you. Okay. Thanks.
A couple times.
When me and Pat go, we're not inviting you.
Oh.
When do you want to go, Pat? I got tickets. We can leave Jarrod there.
I got to go back to the guest house because somebody's sick and they need my help. And the funny thing about this one was, I can't remember when, Kathy was watching it. I think she messaged me and she was like, now I know where the Reichenbach Falls joke comes from.
Exactly.
She's been reading that bit on the show for a while. Yeah. Now she finally got good times, good stuff. All right, let's do some Pat points. To get anything left off of our notes, I'm going to steal one, and I'm just going to say I thought it was really cool imagery, cinematography, because when I saw the title of this episode, the first thing I thought of was Sherlock Holmes falling with that French flag wrapped around him. Just the way that is shot, I thought it was really good camera work for a TV show of the 80s. That was really impressive. I just remembered that image. It was really well done. That's my only Pat point, but Pat, it's called Pat point, so you might as well go first.
Sure. Let me give you one of them. There was a quick, escalation to the end of this, Holmes, right? All of a sudden, we're on to this, and they have the confrontation of Moriarty, and then right at the end, the fight was kind of really escalated really quick. And so I guess I kind of find that a little bit disappointing.
It's almost the opposite problem. You know how, at every one you can feel there's a drawn out? It feels like they ran out of time.
Yeah.
This easily could have been an hour and a half or a 2-hour feature length.
Lead up episode. To that. What happens at the end instead of we got to get there. Boom.
Right. I completely agree with that.
And then it's like you said, it's really abrupt. And then most of it's kind of told through Watson's reading of the letter and kind of his. It was really cool to see him go kind of freak out for a minute and then go, okay, what would Holmes do? Let me start working that. You said earlier, Patty showed how smart he was putting things together.
When they retell it, I don't know if it's just his mind picturing what kind of happened. And so then they see them, cinematography shows them falling and all that. And then you see them, boom, you see them hit the ground, right?
I thought they went into the water. I may be wrong.
I saw them look like they hit the ground by the water.
Oh.
But then, he's saying they went and drowned or went into the water and all that. So I don't know. Maybe I saw something that I got duped myself.
I didn't watch it.
Oh, welcome to the network, Kathy.
But that's my only Pat point for this.
All right, Kathy, any burning Pat points before we move on?
I don't think so. I think I covered all my notes that I had written down. And I think I already discussed how the short story is, I didn't completely finish it, but the beginning was very accurate. But because this was the introduction of Moriarty, there was a much larger description, exposition of what had transpired between Sherlock and Moriarty before we get these points in the episode.
Yeah, I mean, talked about it off recording, but this was Conan Doyle's legitimate attempt to be done with this character. I mean, this was supposed to be it. Like, okay, I invented this mastermind criminal. They're going to square off. They're both going to die. There's the end of Holmes. But, man, the public was not having it.
No, not at all.
That's interesting.
And so there's much, much more to come.
Yeah, I am interested to see what they do to change this and have them come back. It's interesting. You know,
And
everybody knows the lore of everything, but
An interesting side note from what I read just a little while, if you Wikipedia Moriarty, the character, apparently he's only in a handful of short stories, but in each incarnation of or version of Sherlock, there's more and more Moriarty.
sure.
That's hard to say.
I can't help but think, too, that our other co-host who will certainly appear on the show in the near future, Delvin the Dark Web Williams, is always complaining about how every Sherlock Holmes thing he does, he's not once yet met Moriarty. And here we have him in 2 episodes, and Delvin's not here. 2 rare appearances. Delvin, if you're listening, trust us, he was really here. Okay, well, with that, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to bust out these pipes and do some ratings. And I got to hand it to Kathy for that.
All right, so let's discuss some more pipe ratings. Let's go over that rating system one more time. On a scale of 1 to 5 pipes, 5, you loved it. It solved your mystery.
Aha!
4, it was really good. 3, it was all right. 2, you did not like it. 1, you hated it. It threw you off of Reichenbach Falls. And that is the most appropriate response for this particular episode. So how would you rate this episode, Pat?
I'm going to go with a 4. It's just a straight 4. I did enjoy the story. I did enjoy learning more about Moriarty and kind of enjoyed the chase. But even though the ending was kind of escalated, I still enjoyed it.
All right, Jarrod, what about you?
I think I'm going to join Pat once again. I was feeling a 3 for a lot of it because of his disjointed storytelling and that it is more of a chase episode and there's not really a mystery, but it gets that bump up because of the emotional part, because of Holmes not wanting to endanger Watson. Watson saying, F that, we roll together no matter what. So Holmes basically had to lie and concoct a BS story to remove Watson because he cared so much. And that part hit me in the heart. So it's worth going to a 4.
And I think I really agree with you. I was thinking 3 as well, but based off emotional scenes and the scenic scenes, I think I'm going to give it a 4 as well.
Yeah, boy, you can't beat the settings. They clearly went on location to film that, and it looked so good and accurate. Yes,
Jarrod, we know you've been there.
Never mind.
No, go ahead. Accurate what?
I think it's perfect. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you something I did learn as I was hiking through the Alps when I lived in Europe. All right, I've been to there's different countries' borders there in the Alps. And here's something you might not know. You might think it's just a straight line or a solid line. There's actually 8 or 10 feet where one country stops and the other one. So there's 8 or 10 feet of no man's land that runs the entire border. And I've often wanted to claim that. I just want to claim that 8 or 10 foot strip that runs between the countries. It's kind of neat. Basically there's a pole that says, okay, this is the border of Austria. And then 10, 12 feet later, there's another pole that says, okay, this is the border of Switzerland. But it's okay, so whose land is in the middle?
You could totally build an 8-foot wide house in the middle of that.
I'm from Alabama. I'll just put some trailers, just trailer right down there. So before we ride off in our handsome cab for this episode, let's thank those Crusaders Club members who helped pay the rent here at 221B. And in case you missed it, we're also doing old radio shows here on this channel. So we're really sort of bumping up our Holmes content. Kathy may have some special episodes in the future as well. So there's a lot more Holmes content in addition to this Jeremy Brett stuff and, of course, the radio shows that we've already started posting. So, yeah, special thanks to the Crusaders Club members that help pay the rent and get all this bonus content out there. We're happy to give you more and more Sherlock Holmes content because it seems like you guys are enjoying it. And the fine folks who are doing that, who have joined our crusade, well, they get early access to special Longbox episodes. They get to vote to determine show content and so much more. Here are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
And Helica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robinson.
The Moriarty to my Holmes. Dave Collins.
You have paid me several compliments, Mr.
Gary Viola.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Joe Thomas.
Dr. John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Hey, it's me, Kathy Bright, the MVP.
I was going to say it if you didn't. Mark Ross. Some know him as Cluck Trent.
Maxwell Traber.
Michael Wagner.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Ross Michaud.
Ryan Daly.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.
As usual, if we missed anyone on our list, we certainly apologize. Keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release. So if you're a recent addition, we'll add you soon, but that's no problem. If we missed you, send us an email, contact@longboxcrusade.com. We will get it straightened out. As a reminder, you can become a Crusaders Club member by going to patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as $1 a month. Get access to the amazing world of Crusaders Club, which does come with invitations to be on shows. We recently recorded a show with one of our Crusaders Club members. It's one of the benefits you get. So if you like Sherlock Holmes and you want to talk Sherlock Holmes, patreon.com/longboxcrusade. For just $1, you'll get all those other benefits, and we might just toss out a, hey, who wants to be on a Holmes? Or you can reach out to us and say, hey, I joined your Crusaders Club, and I want to be on an episode. And chances are we'll have you on. Offer not available in all areas, especially for Jason.
You don't have to dig a tunnel just to get to us.
No, you don't. You don't have to dig a tunnel. You don't have to hike through the Alps.
Nope.
Just patreon.com/longboxcrusade.
All right, guys, that'll wrap up these 2 episodes. We'd love to hear from you if you're familiar with any variation of Sherlock Holmes, including the Granada adaptations. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Longbox Crusade. Our email is contact@longboxcrusade.com. Our phone number, Jarrod?
707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
And that's where you can leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear your voicemail. We'd probably play it on the show. So if you got thoughts, 707-532-5269. And if you want to chat with me personally, I can be found at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist, or you can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. It does include a lot of different Sherlock Holmes book page sketches. So if this is your jam and you want affordable, cool art by me, well, you're in the right place. Kathy.
I can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at AUKathy2418, and that is Kathy with a K. Pat, what about you?
Well, Kathy, I am glad you asked. You can find me on the Twitter at Kristatos01. I'm also here hanging about at the Longbox Crusade Studios doing other podcasty things until somebody kicks me off the falls.
I just want to say thanks, Pat, for joining us. Thank you for allowing me on the network and to host this show. And I'm glad you joined us here in the garage today to talk about some Sherlock.
Well, I'm glad you came to join us as well, too, Kathy, taking over for Gene. It's been great to listen to you and hear you kind of evolve along your podcasting way. So you're doing great. Keep it up, and glad to have you part of the LBC family.
Thank you very much. Be sure to join us next quarter as we take a look at Season 3, The Return of Sherlock Holmes. We'll be watching the first 2 episodes as aired on ITV in England, The Empty House and The Abbey Grange. I've been told that we will see a new Watson in Season 3. We are up for the adventure. Are you?
On a trip to Switzerland with his wife in 1893, Conan Doyle recorded in his diary, "We saw the wonderful falls of Reichenbach, a terrible place, and one that I thought would make a worthy tomb for Sherlock, even if I buried my banking account with it." Later that year, he wrote The Final Problem, sent it off to the Strand magazine, and noted coldly and laconically in his diary, "Killed Holmes." City employees went to their work wearing solemn mourning bands, while less dignified readers stormed the offices of the Strand and sent the author hundreds of nasty letters. "There will only be a temporary interval in the Sherlock Holmes stories," the editors of the Strand rather hysterically hastened to assure their readers. But Conan Doyle stood firm. "I have had such an overdose of him that I feel towards him as I do towards patty de foie gras, of which I once ate too much, so that the name of it gives me a sickly feeling." Conan Doyle pursued other writings and became a world leader in the movement of spiritualism. 8 years later, when Holmes finally made a reappearance, crowds stormed the printers, unable to wait for the magazines to hit the bookstalls. Conan Doyle was knighted in 1902, and many felt, perhaps not entirely incorrectly, that this honor was due as much to the reappearance of Holmes in The Hound of the Baskervilles as to the author's public service during the South African War. Christopher Morley, the founder of New York's Baker Street Irregulars, spoke for generations of grateful fans when he commented, "How ridiculous that the author should only have been knighted. He should have been sainted." Until next week, and a brand new series on mystery, I'm Vincent Price. Good night.
Outtakes.
No,
Shut your
okay.
piss.
I need some good outtakes.
Oh, screen.
Hey.
Like how that was a total insult. Hey,
Why do I look like an elf every time I turn this way?
because your hair
Okay.
is covering your ear, so it looks pointed.
I mean, I'm okay with that. But
You look elven. Don't
In case
get
you
her
didn't know.
started. If you want a Lord of the Rings podcast on the network, she is ready to go.
ready right now. Let's do it.
Shakira told me that the Plex don't lie.
Still trying to remember what it was I was going to say a minute ago. It's going to drive me crazy and I can't
Stay on
focus.
target. Stay on target. That's okay with
Letting it marinate. Letting it.
things. Hold on, I can't live like that.
I can give you some takes too. Garlic season, onion season, parsley season, paprika season. That's my season takes.
The season for lovin'.
Did you say pumpkin season?
Pumpkin season, sesame season.
Rabbit season. Duck season. Oh, I think we got another one done.
Hang on, where's my? Oh, I'm trying to use my mouse on my iPad.
You hit rock bottom.
Apparently so. Okay, here we go.
That's all right. I have my phone here next to my. Sometimes I grab my phone and start moving it around like it's the mouse.
Wait a minute. How are you tweeting in the middle of my podcast? What are you doing? I'm gonna need you to stop that.
I've got skills and abilities.
Whatever. Wait, what am I supposed to be doing?
I'm the one tweeting it. Yet I got it all together. And you know what? You're
There we go.
I'm your private chat. I can be found at the yard sale artist.
Oh, wait a minute. You sure that's your website? Or
I've
wouldn't it be
also been to the Alps.
Yes, I thought it was like thealps.com.
I've been to the Alps.com /.
The yard sale artist at alps.com.